Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, a rubber band gun. Well, I am stupidly excited for this week's show, and I don't know why. There's something about a rubber band gun that I just love, and I'm really looking forward to making it. Now, the way that this show goes is that I was planning on making a rubber band machine gun. So I was doing some research and that sort of thing, and then I found this guy's site, and he showed these fantastic looking rubber band guns, and I thought, I want to make one of those. So all of a sudden I see the link, click here for the PDF, and I think, here we go, how much? This is either going to make me or break me here for this project. How much? And they're free. I don't know who this guy is or what country his site is in or anything else about him. What I do know is he's put out some really nice patterns for some really nice looking rubber band guns, one of which I'm going to show you here today on the show, and all of the patterns are free. Kudos to him for putting it out there for others to use. Guys, I will put that link below so that you can follow it, but enough talk. Let's get into this build because I really want to get this going. Well, for those of you who favor the metric system, you're going to like these plans because they are all in metric. I have converted it to imperial for my own use. But for the most part, the entire build is made from 4mm plywood. For me, I want it out of solid wood, which just means I have to pay attention to which way the grains run. But for me, that equals 5 32nd inch thick stock. I want to make the core piece out of one solid piece instead of laminating two together as the plans call for. So I have a piece here that's 5/16 of an inch thick that will be the core. Well, the very first thing that you're going to want to do is head to the website and print out a set of the plans. From there, we want to start with the beginning with step one or part one, which is the outer body of the rubber band gun. And we'll just spray the patterns, we'll apply it to our stock, and then cut it out on the scroll saw. We now want to cut the rest of the pieces for the interior of the rubber band gun. So just following the instructions, adhere your patterns, and cut your pieces over at the scroll saw, and I'll see you back at the bench. And there we have part one cut out. I have left the pattern attached because there are 3 holes to drill, and they are holes that are duplicated on the opposite piece for the other side. So I'm going to leave this pattern on and drill those holes when everything is together so that everything lines up. Now this build is meant to be made from plywood. I'm using solid stock, and because of that, what I want to do to ensure its strength is I will be alternating grains. Some of the pieces are the same, like the center core pieces, and for that I have doubled the thickness and I've cut it out of solid stock, again alternating the grain. So I'm going to get all of these layers glued together to form the body of our rubber band gun. We're going to get this all glued up and clamped. We're going to give each piece just a light sanding before we glue it together. And then once I get this all glued up, I'll come back and see ya. While I'm waiting for parts to dry up, I'm going to take part number 13, which is the opposite cover of our rubber band gun, and I'm going to drill the screw holes. That will be the ones that are marked here as 3mm. For me, I'm going to drill them at 1/8 of an inch because later on I want them to accept some number 6 by 3/4 inch brass screws. Our pieces are dry, so we're going to take our cover, lay it in place where it goes very carefully, lining it up as best we can, and we're going to take it over to the drill press and we're going to drill our holes for our mounting screws. Once we get that done, we will screw this thing together and then we'll head over to the sander. With the cover secured in place, we'll now use the oscillating drum sander, and we're going to go all the way around the perimeter, cleaning up and evening up all of our glue ups. We will also take it over to the belt sander and clean up all of our flat edges and align them up as well. Once you're satisfied that you've got everything lined up the way that you want it, we're going to take it over to the drill press and we're going to drill our 3 holes right through the entire rubber band gun. The plans call for 4mm holes. I will be using 1/8 inch holes. And now that those are done, you can remove your pattern, cut the other overlay pieces that you're going to need, and glue them onto the gun. Put it aside and let it completely dry up. Well, although the plans call for the plywood, I've already deviated by using solid stock, so now I'm going to deviate from the plans again, and I want to make all of the working components out of UHMW plastic. I've attached the patterns, drilled my holes. There will be some dados that I'll need to cut in these, and I'll do those by hand afterwards. But first off, let me get these cut over the scroll saw and I'll come back and I'll see you. Well, the instructions are very clear as to how this goes together. I have my pieces cut, I've cut my dados that I need, and they just slide together, and then using a 5/8, well, they call for dowels, but you know, I had some spare or some scrap pieces of 1/8 thick brass rod, and I figured, you know what, I've already modified the project this much, I might as well use the brass rod. So I'm just going to install these the way that they go, and we'll hammer these brass rods in place. There's one joint. You want to make sure that these are free moving. This is actually a little tight for my liking. I think I'm going to pull it apart and sand down the center strip just a little bit to make it a little more loose. But you get the idea. We're going to put the other one right in here like this, and that will be the trigger assembly done. Okay, that's much better. I like the way that fits in there much better. So there you go. Just make sure that you're fine-tuning as you go. You don't want this to be too tight and not be able to work properly. We're going to do a test fit of our trigger mechanism. So I've got a rubber band here. I doubled it up. We're going to hook it right here on the inside of our gun, and then onto the front end, that little notch there, of our trigger assembly. From there, the pieces fit into place, and a 15/16 length of rod, that brass rod that we had, our 1/8 inch brass rod, that will fit into place and then go down into the holes that we drilled previously. Just like that. And then this one here will fit in as well, the same way. There we go, just like that. All right. And now we'll need one more piece of 15/16 rod to place our little gear mechanism in. Our rod will just go on the gear. Just like that. That one there is a little tight. I'm just going to shave that down just a little bit. And once you're happy with the mechanism, as you pull the trigger, this should reload to the top. So just make sure that it spins and stops where it's supposed to. This one looks pretty good, so I think at this point I can put our other cover back on. And because we've added all of this trim, I think we're going to have to go around and give it another little sanding just to level things out. So we'll just get this screwed together, and I'll see you after I get it all cleaned up. And there's the one little decorative piece that goes on the end here. Now I just turn this on the lathe and we'll glue it in place, and that should finish off the barrel of the gun anyway. When it comes to making the magazine for our rubber band pistol, just adhere the pattern to a piece of 5/32 thick stock. Cut it out, sand to fit, and slide it in place in the bottom of the gun. And with that, our magazine is done. So we need one small rubber band now, and I'll show you how that goes on, and that is the last step in our build. Well, now that you have your magazine made, we need to install the magazine catch release. It's the last piece to do here, and I think I neglected to tell you to install this little block here, but it's just a small little piece that glues into this recess on the left side handle, and I've got a very small rubber band here, and we're just going to place that rubber band down around this block, just like this, right down to the bottom if we can. And once you get that done, you want to take a small paper clip and bend it in a hook, and we're going to reach in through this hole, grab a hold of that rubber band, and secure it here. All right, so there we go. We've got the rubber band. So now that we have it pulled through, we'll just stick our finger in here, and our catch release has that little notch in it. And all we're going to do is place this catch release down inside. Our rubber band will go over top and into that notch. And then we'll just slide it down inside there. Just like that. And that's it. That piece is installed. So now we can place our other half onto our gun once we get our mechanisms in. Like that. We'll place our cover on and screw it down. And with your magazine retaining clip installed with that rubber band, your little mag or your clip, your mag, whatever you want to call it, can just fit in the handle. It holds rubber bands. To get it out, just click your release. Well, now I think it's time to test this out. So how do you load it? Well, all you need to do is take your rubber band, hook it on the front of your sight in that little notch in the front, bring it to the back, and hook it on your little cog wheel. Once you get it hooked in place, click it back, one click, just like that. Then you can take a second rubber band, hook it on the front, hook it here, click it in. On the front, here, click it in. And you can just continue to add them. I'm just going to put 6 here because that's the only elastics that I've got, but you can get about 8 in it. And then she's ready to go. And then it's just a matter of pulling the trigger. It's spectacular. And there you have it. A wooden rubber band gun. Guys, this project is more fun than what I should be allowed to have on the show. It is absolutely wonderful. Everything about the pattern that I got from the website is spot on. I didn't have a problem with a single bit of the pattern. The instructions are clear, step by step, and the final product is awesome. Now, modifications to the rubber band gun. What did I do differently? Well, for starters, I used solid stock instead of ply. That was the main thing for me, and I was just going for a look. That's all I wanted. I didn't want the ply, even though you laminate on the top, I didn't want all the layers of ply. Plus, this was readily available, so poplar and walnut it was. Another modification that I made, of course, was the UHMW plastics for our moving parts. And that is just personal preference, nothing more. You could use plywood, you could use solid stock, just pay attention to the grains for that, because the trigger does take abuse. So you don't want it to be weak. But the UHMW worked beautifully on all the moving parts, right from the clip lock all the way to the trigger, everything. It was a great addition with the brass rods. I'm really glad I chose that method and it worked well. But, it's always a but. You want to sand your mechanisms inside to be thinner than that gap. That gap works out to be 5/8 of an inch wide. You can figure out the millimeters if you like, but once you put it together, if you don't have a 1/16 of an inch gap on your trigger and your mechanism up through the barrel area, then it just jams. The trigger doesn't return properly like it should. It should spring right back. So you want to make sure that you have enough of a gap that you allow those mechanisms to move. Other than that, this product is awesome for all ages. I don't care if you're in your 50s like me, or you're in your 20s, or if you're making it for a young child of 10 or 15, I don't know. I don't care. This was an absolute blast. And I really hope you guys are going to visit the website and check it out for yourself. As I said, I don't know who made these patterns. I don't know the person. I don't know their website. I'm not affiliated with them. But what I do know is that their generosity blows my mind. Not only to take the time to come up with these plans and make them, but they also have tutorial demonstration videos on their site. And on top of all of that, to offer the patterns for free, man. These are my kind of people. I don't know who they are, but they are my kind of people, and I hope that you visit their site. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so that you don't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. It's been a lot of fun, more fun than what I know what to do with. I hope you're going to try it yourself. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video. This is going to be tough to top. It really is going to be hard to top this one. This was a lot of fun.